Hi everyone, it's Dr. Jacqueline Cortez Salmons here at Transformation Health and Wellness. Welcome to Field Trip Fridays. We are on a field trip today with my friend Ghesi Stojanov. She is just incredible. We actually, you're sort of interrupting our conversation that we've been having for a good 20 minutes or so. We can just talk for hours. Ghesi is a life coach and a transformational coach. So she is just an incredible human being. And we were discussing what an important role her profession takes in somebody's life. Now, whether that's because we're recovering from cancer, because we're facing cancer, because we've been through some sort of trial, through a divorce, through whatever it is in our lives that we experience. Because I will tell you, like, there is not a single life that is untouched by some form of tragedy, trial, obstacle in our paths. And so having somebody to really help you navigate who doesn't necessarily have a personal attachment to you, I think is really, really critical, because, you know, our moms are always going to tell us we're beautiful, right? Our husbands are going to say whatever they need to say in order to not get kicked out of the house. There's something to be said for an objective observer coming in and saying, look, you can make some corrections here. We can navigate this way. You know what? I've been there too. This is how I dealt with it. And I think Ghesi really brings a ton of that to the table. So Ghesi, how long have you been doing this?
I have been doing this for almost 6 years now. And I love living within my purpose.
Yes.
And being a light and adding color by empowering other individuals to grow and to reach those goals that they want to achieve and see in their lives. And you're totally right that every single person has had some type of trial, some type of hurdle to go over. Sometimes we get stuck. And that's where a coach comes in. Someone will come see me if they want to see some growth happen. They want to see change and they want to move forward. And I am one of the biggest cheerleaders. I believe that everyone within themselves has a power to change and has the tools there. Sometimes they just need to have a little direction or have a change of perspective.
Yes. And we were talking about that, how a lot of us kind of get stuck into the business of our day-to-day routine. You know, did you pick up the kids? Did we pay the light bill? Is the mortgage taken care of? You know, we punch in and we punch out, not just at our jobs, but in life in general. And we sort of lose sight of what our emotional purpose is. You often talk about the 4 pillars, which are so important for our overall wellness. Do you want to go through those a little bit?
For sure. So I am all about balance. You can't have one without the other, and all 4 of these things feed into each other. So the 4 pillars that I live by are having balance within your emotional, your mental, your spiritual, and your physical well-being. The one thing that most of us will focus on one area that's easiest, because life is all about ease, right? Our brain wants things just to be on autopilot. We don't want to think about it because we have a lot of.
It's hard. It's hard work.
It's hard. So, but then we start feeling that we're not having full fulfillment, that we're not living within our full potential, purpose, and we might be feeling a bit flat. And that's because we're not feeding into one of these 4 areas. And maybe it's something like, for myself, it might be the physical aspect. I will tell you, since Corona, my excuse before Corona was, I'm too busy. I can't do this. I have clients. I have pickups. I have lunches. I have, I just have a life. So I can't.
I'm busy lifing. Yeah.
Exactly. Now I'm sitting, once the stay-at-home thing happened, what am I doing? I have no excuse now.
Yeah.
I have to do something now.
Yes.
So my mental, physical, and spiritual, fantastic. The physical part of stuff, not so much. But I realized that the reason why I need to do the physical part of stuff and start focusing on that isn't because I want to be the 18-year-old me again, because that's not going to happen. But it's because I know that if I feed that aspect of my life, that I will be more productive, that I will feel better, that I can do more. My value on what I can achieve will grow by leap and bounds. So even now, like before we jumped in and had our little convo, I went for my run. I will be
Nice.
totally honest and say the whole run, I'm like, I hate my life.
I hate running. I don't want to do this.
Do this. I hate it.
Yes.
But
I
I
always
know
say
it's
it's the
good
first
for me.
5. It's the first 5 minutes and the first 5 miles. If you can get past those, you're golden.
Yeah. And it's not even about that. You have to think too that why are you doing this? I'm doing this because I'm a breast cancer survivor
Yes.
and I want to give myself the best opportunity to live a long life.
Yes.
So if
And a long, healthful life, right? Because there's a difference
Exactly.
between the 90-year-old who's, sitting with dementia in a room with white walls versus being healthful and hiking and sharing experiences with
Right.
our kids and our spouses, friends, all of that sort of thing.
Exactly. And that's where the change of mindset and perspective comes into play on the reasons why you're doing it.
Yes.
You may not, like myself, be working out because it's the most fun thing in the world, but you know that it's making you better in some way. So you have to kind of change. And even, like I said before, I might say, I hate this, but I'm like, but I want to live a long, healthy life. So
Yes.
I will continue to do this.
Absolutely.
So not everything we do is going to be the best Disneyland experience, but
right?
you know that the
Not
end
at all.
result is going to feed you.
Yes. And I think that that's the hard thing is that we were discussing earlier about the vulnerability of coming in to see a coach, to say,
Mhm.
I need help, and thinking like, I don't want your sympathy. I don't want you to just hear my
Yeah.
problems and say, wow, that's really tough that you're going through that, right? That's what our
Mhm.
counselors are for, to like
Right.
echo our emotions and to identify our feels. And all of those things are absolutely important. But to do the hard work of the growth, of saying,
Mhm.
no, this actually is going to suck.
Mhm.
It's going to be really hard to get past that. But as you said, to have that cheerleader in another person, right? So that you can actually in turn teach that individual to be their own cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so huge. We were talking earlier about self-talk and how we address ourselves. Oh, I don't like this. I don't, even looking at myself in the camera, I'm like, oh my God, girl, I need some Botox. Like there's some things that need to happen, but we I try to do it in such a more positive way now than I used to, because I recognize how it manifests itself in the way we come across and how our bodies present themselves, whether I'm sitting like this kind of hunched in because I don't like my abs or whatever it is, versus if I pull myself back and I'm breathing air. It's not only a better presentation, it's more helpful. I can now open my lungs up. I now have a better unobstructed airway. I mean, so again, just in that small motion, just in that mindset difference, like how hugely it plays into all 4 of those pillars.
Oh,
Absolutely.
for sure. For sure. Your thoughts and the words, I totally believe, and we said this before, are living. And what you put out is not that you have a predestination, but you are making it happen.
Yeah.
So I will say, with growth, it's painful. And because change is happening, and you can add on a doctor's perspective. And I know if you have kids, when they have growing pains,
Oh, they're painful.
they
Oh
are
my gosh.
painful. Sometimes my kids are crying.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's not fun, but
Yeah.
growth needs to happen because that's when you're reaching your full potential.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
it's important to remember that even on a cellular level, when things are happening, that growth isn't easy.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And I think that a lot of times we sort of beat ourselves up when we have something such as oh, well, I messed up breakfast. I messed up such and so thing. And so it ends up that we don't get refocused. I think I might have lost Jessie for a little bit, but it's a very nice smile, so I'm glad I lost you there. But that being said, we don't recorrect. We think, oh, well, forget it. Hi, everyone. We're back. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty. That moment when you think you're running things like a professional, but in fact, like our phones went down, internet went down. It's good times. So we are back with Miss Ghesi Stojanov at our Field Trip Friday, and I was just finishing up a thought while I lost her, unfortunately, about how oftentimes we sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that we're on a diet. We're going to make some changes. And then we sort of flub up because there's a potluck at work, which actually now with the COVID, I don't know, are potlucks even happening? They're not going to happen for a while. So I guess that's a good thing. But you might make a poor decision and then you're like, well, just forget it. You know what? I'm going to try next week, or I'm going to wait until next Monday. You know, forget it. I'm going to do everything I want to do, kind of fit in all of the eating feels all through the weekend. And it's like, no, instead of that, kind of redirect and regroup and say, well, I made a poor decision here, but I'm going to make a better decision at the next meal or the next snack. But even as we're talking to ourselves and kind of redirecting that negative self-talk that I think a lot of us have gotten into, coming back and saying, hey, I see you. That was a negative comment to myself. I definitely would not have said that to any other person. Let me readdress that and kind of recode it with something positive and change that behavior. And then going forward, you don't continue to beat yourself up. So I think that's a big deal.
It is. And I think that we're human. If we can show grace to our kids and other people in our life, we should be able to share and show ourselves that same grace.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I learned to combat that was, especially during my breast cancer journey, I had the negative talk that I was going to die. I mean, I was going through chemo, I was doing all these things, but I would have
sure as heck, if you didn't think it that day, you're going to sure feel it because it's not fun.
No. And I would tell myself, and I would have these thoughts, especially when I was by myself, because that's when we start bashing ourselves, is when we're alone and we're left to our own devices.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And I kept on telling myself, Jessie, what if this chemo doesn't work? You know, you're going to die. And I started changing and training the way I thought by, I call it kind of like the rule of 3 or 1, 2, 3. As soon as I had that negative thought, you're going to die, I would tell myself 3 truths why that was a lie. Well, while at the same time acknowledging that, I will die eventually. We're not here
get out of this alive.
No, but I'm not dying today. So I would repeat my 3 over and over and over again. I might do that for 10 minutes until that thought disappeared. But it's so important to snap your mind out of it. It's kind of like, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm a huge animal lover. Kind of like how you correct a dog in a way, you know, you snap them out of that. You have to snap yourself out of that train. That train wreck that's happening.
Yes. And I think it's important to recognize it, right? And I think we've had this whole generation of the feels, right? And this is, you know, some of when we talk about the snowflakes and so forth, is that, you know, our emotions are important and our feelings are so important, which is true. It is absolutely true. But then I also say that it's my job as a parent to tell you what's socially acceptable or not, right? So there can be certain developmental milestones. They're absolutely true, but my kid cannot grow up still biting people when they're 15, right? So I have to correct that. So even with that, though, we can recognize sadness, despair, hopelessness, anger, frustration. You know, these emotions are important to identify. But then the next question is, I think, where we kind of fell off the bridge with that one is, so what do I do about it? How do I fix this then? What am I going to do? So next step. And I always say in my life, I have plans A through F, right? I think as we become mothers, we sort of do that. Okay, if the nanny calls out, if my backup babysitter can't be here, if, you know, but okay, if I'm in that state of anger, if I'm in that state of, you know, feeling out of control, how am I going to address this? Am I going to cope in a positive way and like go for a quick run because it doesn't cost me money? It doesn't take me all that much time. You know, I can do a lot of things with that. I'm not destroying my body. I'm building it. I can maybe get my thoughts on straight, feel a little bit better, get those endorphin release, or am I going to go drink some alcohol or go out and party irresponsibly, or am I going to put a fist through a wall? You know, so, and again, our kids are always watching us, right? They learn by example much more so than what we teach them verbally. But I think redirecting, after you identify that emotion, kind of redirecting the actions associated with those. And I think, again, that's, I think, what message has sort of been lost with this grouping of, you know, feel your feels. Yes, feel that, embrace that. You know what, this is grief. I'm not happy about you right now. This is not an opportune time, but this is what I'm going to do moving forward. And I think that that's where your profession is so critical in having that person to turn to when you are sort of spiraling or on that merry-go-round and you can't get off,
Yeah.
of having that person to say, because again, we have those folks in our lives who love us and they're like, no, you're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Don't worry about this today. And while they're not trying to be, it can be very patronizing. I think it can be very dismissive of that true sensation that we're having, that true emotion, being able to come back and say like, no, I need help to unwind myself from this. And having somebody who's skilled in the ability to do that is really, really critical.
Yeah, and not only beating yourself up, because at that moment, that negative thought is your truth,
Yes.
right? So you need to understand the connection between that. So my negative thought was, my truth is, and the reality was, I was doing chemo. And the reality is, it could go bad. And you have to acknowledge what the reality is. And most of the time, we're not taught to recognize. We'd rather mask it and push it away because we don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of those snowball effects happen, because we're not willing to acknowledge, embrace it for what it is, acknowledge what we then need to do to take the steps to resolve it.
Yes.
And change the way you think.
Yes, absolutely. It's so critical. Well, I really enjoyed speaking with you. I know it was a little disjointed there in the middle, but this is part of our charm, right? Is that raw nature to what we do here. But I hope you enjoyed our Field Trip Friday and our journey over to see Ghesi. Now, Ghesi, you have Zoom meetings available, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be in person, because I know everything's been changing.
Yep. I totally can meet via Zoom. I love to see the person I'm speaking to. So I'm a huge face-to-face talker. So we have Zooms. I'm going to also be launching next month a group coaching platform where we can have a tribe of people working together, growing together to achieve what we want to see in our lives.
And I think, again, that's another huge resource that's largely untapped, even in medicine, where we have such a thing with confidentiality, which absolutely is sacred. But if I have a group of newly diagnosed diabetics, for example, and you feel so alone, you feel like, gosh, I'm the only one. Or what I dealt with in my previous life was, you know, postpartum depression. I would sometimes see 5, 6 women a day with postpartum depression. It's a huge percentage. It's a very real issue. And they felt so alone and so hopeless. I'm the only one who's not enjoying my infant the way that I should be on Pinterest. And, you know, and to be able to bring somebody together in that group setting and say, look, you're not the only one, and we can all get through this together. And having them teach each other is huge. Having folks learn from one another. You know what, I had that feeling last week, and this is what I did to get through it. And maybe it'll be beneficial, maybe it won't. But at least I think bouncing those ideas off of each other is huge. So I'm excited that you're doing the group platform.
I'm excited to see it roll out and to see the magic that happens within this group and the power.
Yes, yes, for sure. And I think that this is where Ghesi and I are very much like-minded humans. We're very much kindred spirits, that we believe in empowering patients. For me, patients, but for you, clients, people. But really to empower you with your own strength so that you understand how you can affect your own life. You don't have to wait for somebody to come and, you know, lead you by the hand and say, this is the medication you have to take. There are steps that you can take along the way in a variety of other ways that will benefit your health wholly. And I think that's what, you know, what Ghesi and I feel. We're going to put Ghesi's information up at the end of this broadcast, so you can definitely contact her at any point. We're going to be meeting again, too, because Ghesi has her hands in many pots, as do I. And she has a wonderful group called Pinkies Up for Wellness that I'm very honored to be a part of. So very soon we are going to do a broadcast about that as well, and how you can help to support us and how we can help to support you through any of your struggles that you might be having.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Bye-bye. Yeah, woo. We'll do it again. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.